And welcome into a brand new edition of the Believe in Carolina Panthers podcast. I'm your host, Desmond Johnson, joined by Sports Illustrated Panthers beat writer Schuyler, Callihan, and Panthers all-time leading rusher Jonathan Stewart. You guys know how we do. It's a Tuesday edition. Normally we're on every Monday, but with the holidays, we decided to wait an extra day, and I'm happy we did because we had some Panther news that went down that I think will affect a lot of Panther Nation in terms of a roster move that happened that would have happened after we had taped yesterday. So actually worked itself out. We'll get you the lowdown on that. It's Panthers versus Lions recap. Panthers with a huge dominating victory over the Detroit Lions at home this past Sunday, 37-21. We'll get into that. We've got Tell Them Why You're Mad, because it's typically what we would do is 2 episodes in a week, but with New Year's coming up this upcoming week, it's already Tuesday. We're squashing 2 episodes into one. We'll be back on our regular rotation next week. So you're getting a recap of last game, and you're getting a preview of Tampa versus Carolina today. And it's open mailbag. So if you're watching the show and you want to stick in your comment, take, question to the panel, anything like that, like Kevin McFarland here, who still can't get over the fact that the team put up 570 total yards of offense in the game, which was not even done in 2015 when we had the number 1 scoring offense in the league. Yes, and it was fun. The entire game was fun to watch. Stu was in the booth. They might tell you, you need to come back. Stu, you might be good luck because they, from the first play, they rattled off 30 yards. It was just on and popping from that point on. So we'll get Stu's view from the studio, from the stadium. He was actually calling the game for radio. Schuyler was there reporting for Sports Illustrated. So we'll get into all that stuff, the things we liked, and we'll give you some predictions on Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm pretty sure they're going to probably be leading off our Tell 'em Why You're Mad segment.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you why we mad, son.
So I'm going to let you guys dictate here. Do you want to do Tell 'em Why We're Mad first, or do we want to get into this recap since this game was on Saturday?
Yeah, let's get this bad energy out the way.
Okay, so we gotta Stu, I feel like Stu has had something because he asked, are we doing Tell 'em Why You Mad today? So I feel
I think we're all on the same page here.
Okay.
You know, Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell you why we mad, son.
Man, I feel like I wasted my evening watching that game. Like when it got to the point where it was like Tom Brady in overtime or whatever it was, Tom Brady with like 2 minutes left and he needed a field goal.
I know being an offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator is not an easy task. And I understand the Arizona Cardinals, their season is over. But if you want national television, put on a good product, please. Please. There was a short yardage opportunity for them to convert first down late in the game. Cardinals. You have James Conner, who is literally running like a bull, kind of like at his own will. And given the opportunity to convert on the first down, you do this weird fake to the fullback, quick pitch to the left, and now we have a ball on the ground. Missed opportunity. Just give the ball to James Conner, let him pick up the first down. That changes the trajectory of the ending of the game. The defensive coordinator, you get a guy hurt. Now we understand you're down a guy. I understand that. But you got to call on your players to still make plays when it comes to coverage. Because what happens is when you're down a guy, now you have your bigs in there, right? You got your linebackers in there. They're not going to be able to cover in space. Whatever it is, dial up some type of coverage to where Tom Brady, to make it harder for Tom Brady. If you send 3 up the middle, it's easy money for him. Okay, I can outflank the defense now. You know what I'm saying? Come on. It's just not rocket science. When I saw that, they dialed it up twice in a row. And it blew my mind watching that on TV live at the national football level. I mean, it's common sense. It's peewee football. Yeah. Like, got guys up the middle. You got a little bit of time. You got receivers that can outflank a guy. It's easy money.
Coordinators are getting too complicated. Like, they're making it way more complicated than it needs to be. And I think that's what's refreshing with the Panthers.
That's a problem.
Yeah. the Sean McVay thing where everybody's got to be the next wonder kid or whatever, the next offensive genius. I see it all the time. People are still asking for us to get a offensive minded coach in here. And I'm like, are you not seeing what's happening here?
Like, you want to know what's genius? Simplicity is key.
Yes. Look at the Panthers.
The Panthers Coach Wilks is a genius because he sees this thing as, hey, the players make plays. It's all about execution.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to repeat this. I'm taking execution over schematics every day. Okay? So everyone can have the best schemes in the world. Everyone can have the best plays, the trick plays, and can outsmart somebody. When it comes down to it, to win the hard, fought-out games, it's execution.
You can be a wizard on the chalkboard and in the filmer, but if you can't develop players and the players don't buy into what you're selling,
yes,
it's not gonna work.
Right.
I've always been told by high school coaches that if they see a team doing a bunch of trick plays and a lot of deception and things of that sort, that group feels like they can't win head up, like straight up, man to man against the team they're playing against, and they have to do this.
That's the biggest feeling, at least for me, that I've noticed with this team is like early in the season, it was like, okay, this team was like, can we win games? Can we stay competitive? And it's like as soon as that first sound of adversity hit, they kind of hung their heads a little bit and they kind of got a little bit kind of defensive. Whereas since Steve Wilks has taken over, I feel like this team feels like they can literally win every single game, and they go out there with that mindset and that intention that they're going to set the tone. We saw it last week against Detroit, very first play of the game with Chuba Hubbard. So, like, I feel like the whole mentality of this team has really changed just since Steve's taken over.
Let's look at the so I know this happened Saturday, but let's look at the box scores real quick because it deserves to be looked at. The Panthers. Shout out to the Carolina Panthers offensive line, who, in my opinion, set the tone for this game before kickoff, coming out in the black ski mask or whatever, like the entire offensive line, like as a show of unity. This offensive line, people don't really realize, other than Bradley Bozeman coming in, about a month ago, I guess, and took over the starting lineup, the starting center role, they've all pretty much played all year. And people don't understand how important it is to have your starting five offensive line have that cohesiveness and play with each other all year long. In comparison, like last year, it was like a trauma unit with the offensive line. It felt like we were just bringing people in and out. There was no kind of unity. When these boys get on and they start hitting these holes like this, like you're seeing them doing stuff. Like if you're watching it from behind the line of scrimmage, you're seeing that left guard pull over to the right and hit that guy trying to come in from the outside. You're seeing the running back go through the hole and hit that guy that's trying to sneak in, that linebacker, so Chuba or whoever can come through right behind him. Like you're seeing intricacies in the run game with the offensive line that you may not have noticed before, but they're doing it.
What we tell them last year does. What do we tell them?
The possibility top 10 offensive line. Like when they got Corbett and they got Bozeman and drafted Icky, we were like, we know we sound nuts, but this line feels like they could be a top 10 unit. And
is it safe to say we're 2 for 2 now on this preseason?
I think so. What was it the year before? We said that
last year was the top 10 defense.
That's right. We said we could have a top 10 defense off of what we were looking at. This year was the offensive line. And the wins that the Panthers have had since Steve Wilks has took over, if I'm not mistaken, they're averaging over 180 yards on the ground, which is insane in 2022.
After Saturday, it might be somewhere near 200.
Yeah, it might be. These boys ran for 320 yards on 43 carries, 7.4 yards per carry. Everybody was eating. Deonta Foreman had 165 yards on 21 carries. Chuba had
career day
25. You were in the booth calling this game, and I realized that right when they broke it, that they broke the single game rushing record as a team for the Panthers. That record you were a part of, Stu. You were in that game, if I remember correctly. It was a Monday Night Football game against Tampa, right?
Yeah.
Because you have like a pretty infamous meme of you stiff arming a dude to hell. My man bounces off the ground.
They're
like $2.99 or something in that game, I believe, rushing.
Yeah, it was fun to watch, man. I mean, out the gate, I went down to this field pregame, and there was very limited Detroit pregame in sight. First of all, one of the first things I noticed,
the cold,
which kind of and walking through the hallways pregame, I bumped into one of the NFL camera guys, and one of the guys I remember from playing, and he was like, "Hey man, what's the key to the game?" And I said, Well, the man that is able to withstand this weather and the elements around him is going to win the game. And I based that basically off of what I saw in pregame. We had the Carolina Panthers out there like regular, getting their, pregame warm-ups in. And then you had no Detroit players really in sight. I saw the kicker, saw like a couple of receivers, But I mean, mentally, I don't think the Detroit Lions were in it from the start. I think they were going to show. Yeah. I think they were going to show up. I think they thought they were going to show up and just play, and things were just going to fall in their lap. And I know they just got done playing a hard, tough game against the New York Jets, and I think that took a toll on them, having to travel, short week, Saturday game. It's Christmas Eve. I want to be home with my family. All those elements takes a toll on the defense, especially when you are facing an offense that just came off an embarrassing game that has something to prove. And then I saw like post game, they're complaining about the field. Hey man,
I was about to bring that up.
The Carolina Panthers were playing on the same field you were. Mm-hmm. This is the first time they've also played in a very cold game in Carolina at Bank of America Stadium. They weren't here 8 years ago, 9 years, 10 years ago, whatever it was. You know what I'm saying? So everyone's under the same elements. Okay. You've just been playing indoor on those games when it's cold outside. So, I mean, whatever it is, I'm just glad that the offensive line showed up and showed out. It looked like a college football game, like in the beginning of the half, like how you see, like, I don't know, like like when Ezekiel Elliott was playing for the Ohio State Buckeyes, right? And how he was just running rampant, like just running wherever he wanted to run. Saquon Barkley in college, like that's what it looked like as far as those holes opening up.
It looked like from home watching it that the Lions didn't want to touch anybody. Like, and that sounds weird. Like it was so cold outside. It looked like there was some like those in tackles where guys were deciding whether or not they wanted to lay out and tackle or not. Because some like those touchdowns, they just kind of let them through. They got to that point. I know it was cold. I don't remember what the temperature actually was at kickoff, but it was the coldest game in Panthers home history. And we thought that might have something to do with it. We thought it might affect the passing game, but Schuyler, I want you to talk a little bit about the evolution of bearded Sam Darnold, because Sam Darnold has gone from potential savior when he first arrived to clown when it just fell apart last year, to mystery when he missed most of the year with injury this year, to now where I'm sensing a feeling where the fan base is slowly starting to come back around to Sam Darnold. It's like they're remembering the first 3 games of last year and how hyped we were for him being in there. And the dude just don't turn the ball over. 15 for 22, 250 yards, threw a touchdown, no interceptions, no sacks, 121 rating. He literally did what I think my key was last week. I just don't turn the ball over. Give me 250, give me a touchdown or two, move the chains, and let your run game and defense eat. And that's basically what he did. Like, what were you seeing in the booth when it comes to Sam Darnold and his control of the offense? Because it feels like they're giving him a little bit more each week to kind of play with it.
Well, I mean, it goes back to what we saw last year in those first 3 games when we were sitting here talking about. I mean, you compared him to Troy Aikman a little bit. And I
did, and people clown me for that too.
Ryan Tannehill, Jimmy Garoppolo, S-type player where you just kind of have to manage the game. Alex Smith, like those types of players. He can be that type of quarterback. He's got all the talent. He's got the arm. He's got the smarts. He's got the physical traits to be able to do it. It's just being able to do it consistently. What we've seen in these 4 games is, I think, a sense of confidence that we have not seen in Sam since he's entered the league. And I think a lot of that has to do with the offensive line. You look at the offensive lines he's played with his entire career. The Jets was a mess. Last year, you kind of thought, okay, maybe this would be one of the better offensive lines he's played with, even though it still had a lot of work, right? But that offensive line couldn't stay together. They couldn't stay healthy. They had 14 or 13 different starting combinations, and it showed whenever he dropped back in the pocket 20 to 30 times a game. He was getting happy feet. He was making bad decisions, throwing off his back foot, throwing across his body into danger. This year, you're not seeing that. It all starts with that comfort up front. Last year, during OTAs, the one thing he talked about specifically that he needed to improve on was his feet. He said that his feet were too too choppy and too fast. He needed to have calmer feet.
Yeah.
You see that this year.
Yeah.
And it's all with that protection. And secondly, I think not only that, but you're seeing Sam make smarter decisions where he's not putting the ball in harm's way. He's taking what the defense gives him, and he's not forcing things downfield and trying to make things happen because he knows, hey, I got a really, really good defense. I got a hell of a run game. All I got to do is just not mess it up. If I don't mess it up, he can win. And
take some shots.
Because there's times when he takes a sack on third down, knowing, hey, you know what, we're going to punt, but we're going to be okay. It's a lot better than throwing the ball into coverage over the middle of the field and getting picked off.
That's the difference between last year and this year, because last year Sam Darnold, non-bearded Sam Darnold, would throw it anyway, like into like a pack of like three defensive backs.
You'll see too, like the ones that he does maybe throw it a little bit in harm's way, it's way down the field where he's giving his guy a chance to make a play on the ball. And if it's not going to be, if it's going to be picked off, it's going to be essentially a punt. So it's not those ones that are over the middle of the field or he's starting to trying to really force those ones underneath. It's one way down the field where it wouldn't even really matter.
I got one for tell them why you're mad.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you why we mad, son.
We thought after it probably would have if Tampa lost on Sunday night, but I was hoping they were going to flex this game, this Tampa-Carolina game, into primetime because basically it's for the division. I mean, like a lot of things are pretty much wrapped up except for the NFC South is just a hot mess. Like it's just chaos in this division. And I thought that they would flex it. And Joe Person, who I believe I'm going to have on my show Saturday morning, we've been running around each other in circles all year from The Athletic. He put out there on Twitter that the NFL was looking at maybe flexing the game. And then they ended up flexing Steelers and Ravens instead. And I'm like, all right, I get it. Steelers, Ravens, it's a bigger matchup, although I don't think Lamar is playing or anything like that. And I have no idea who's starting for Pittsburgh, but they're both still in the playoff chase. The Ravens are still trying to win the division, all that good stuff. I get it. That's fine. But you haven't really spotlighted the NFC South. And to me, it almost felt like they were like, well, that game's not going to be very good, so we're not going to put it on primetime. We'd rather, if it's not going to be a good game, let's make it an ugly game. And if we want an ugly game, we'd rather have Steelers versus Ravens.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you why we mad, son. But
the Bucs and Panthers are hardcore rivalry. You got the GOAT Tom Brady trying to win a division. He hasn't gone under 500 in a healthy season since 2002. This is 2022. It's been 20 years since Tom Brady has had a year with a sub record and not had an injury. The Panthers are 5-5 with Wilkes over. This was a dominant game against the Lions. Like from the opening snap, the 30-yard run from Cuba, and then I think they had like another one like right behind it.
Kudos to McAdoo this game. He really had a plan in the run game. It wasn't just the same duo play. They added a nice little jab, to just kind of like freeze the linebackers. And getting a chance to get the offensive line on their guys, just that split second, right? Of guys just having to take a freeze moment of where the running back's going.
Yep.
And then you hit it back door. Either you're hitting it down the A gap, which is the physicality of technically the duo play, or you put them one-on-one with the corner or safety, make a guy miss. And those are the plays that you really start to see the talent of what we got in Chuba Hubbard and Deontay Foreman. I mean, these guys, man, watching them this past game, I mean, that's the DNA. They should be there. They need to be together for at least 5 years, in my opinion.
Then it's Double Trouble 2.0. I feel like
what about Raheem Blackshear?
And Raheem as well. I mean,
he's kind of came out of nowhere. Like he's getting 4 or 5 carries a game, but he's making the most of it.
Yeah, every single play, every time he touches the ball, there's an explosion to him. Yep. And he looks small, like compared to Deontay and Chuba in height, but he weighs the same as Chuba Hubbard. I mean, he carries a load. So when DBs are coming up on him on the sideline and he's finishing plays, I mean, it's a good feeling. And when you have 3 guys, one guy comes in, the starter, Deontay or Chuba, and you don't catch a break off of physicality, that's what defenses hate. It's like, okay, we got to change a pace guy. He's a change of pace guy, but he's still going to knock you on your behind.
I love how each one of them are kind of different. They all bring a different thing to the table. Like Deonta this past Sunday, I know he had that wiggle. He was juking some dudes a couple
he got a great jump cut. He got a great jump cut.
For defenses, like normally when you have a trio or duo of running backs, like they may be different, but they also usually scheme to those types of running backs to where they do certain things. Really, from what I've seen, all three running backs can do literally everything.
Yeah.
So there's no certain scheme like Deontay's in the game. Okay, you're going to get inside power. Chuba's in the game. You might get some bounces to the outside. Raheem, this and that. Like, no, they can literally do every single thing.
Yeah.
It's crazy, too, because it feels like the national media is just now catching on to what we've been talking about the past month or so in terms of what the Panthers are doing. They're not hiding anything. We're going to run it at you. I was talking to my father about this the other day right before the Panther game because he was asking me about the Panthers. And I was like, honestly, from what we've seen with Wilkes, there's no in between with this team. There's no middle. Either they're going to run it for 185 yards down your throat all day and you can't stop it, or they're going to run for 40. And there's no reason why. They'll run for 40. They won't be able to get the ball. That seems to be the trick to beat these Panthers, is keep the ball away from them and don't let them get lathered up in the run game. Because once they get rolling, the offensive line starts to lean on you a little bit. It starts to grow. It doesn't stop mid-game. If they get off first quarter with running the ball, they're going to run the ball the whole game. And
that's the key. That's the key for any offense that wants to be physical is time of possession. Because once you have time of possession, once you win that means you're wearing down the defense. That means you're actually doing what you're set out to do, which is keeping the ball and wearing down the defense. And mind you, in December, the reason why it's important, especially this past Saturday, it being as cold as it was, that means the Detroit Lions offense is on the sideline in the cold. And so as a player, you're sitting there just kind of freezing up, and then, oh, it's time for us to go back out there. Oh, let me warm up that quick.
Let me
go find this heater right quick. And but so like the mentality for an offense, because I mean, technically the Detroit Lions are supposed to be a physical team too, right? And they weren't able to stay on the field. One of the key parts of that game was the second drive when they fumbled it, right? From that point on, it was game over. Because they did something that was out of their norm. I don't know, turning over the ball. They haven't had too many turnovers, although the turnovers that they had were fumbles, in the run game and whatnot. And so that took place, and the game changed immediately.
I was going to say, I was looking at the some more numbers from that game. Panthers 37, Lions 23. The Panthers had the ball 35 minutes, 13 seconds of that game. The Lions only 24-47, so about 11 minutes longer than the Lions had it. They only ran 4 more plays than the Lions, 65-61. But total yards, 570 for Carolina, 381 for Detroit. We held the Detroit rushing game to only 45 yards on 17 attempts. So
and that's where the time of possession lingers right there, because they didn't run the ball that well. If you don't run the ball, you're passing it and you're making yourself get into those incompletions, which stops the clock.
Yeah, Goff threw for 350 some yards, but that was all the offense they really had. And honestly, Carolina's second quarter, they scored 17 points in the second quarter, moved the lead out to like 24-7. And at that point, when they came back third quarter and scored in the beginning, I'm like, oh, okay, these boys are on it today. Like, they're on it.
Schuyler, talk about Brian Burns right quick. How he showed up big.
Yeah,
I mean, the Lions didn't allow any sacks technically. And my man just says, oh, okay, well, I got listed as a Pro Bowler this weekend, so let me go ahead and show what that's all about.
Shout out to all the Panther fans who wanted to trade Brian Burns 2 months ago for those 2 first-round picks in like 10 years, Rams or whatever. Yeah.
Shame. You would have saw the returns on that in like maybe the next decade.
2032.
Forever. But I mean, Burns is just like, you go back and look at his stats, even entering the week, and he had already, I think, eclipsed his season high for tackles, TFLs, obviously sacks, QB hits, and he still had like 3 games to go. I mean, it's incredible. And to be honest with you, I don't even think this is his ceiling. Like, I legitimately think before it's all said and done, he will have a 20-sack season. And that's a bold statement.
I
But
think
we've
so.
seen it happen before.
You gotta keep him and Derek Brown together
Yes.
for the rest of their careers.
That's the
Because
key.
Derek Brown is also having a hell of a year. He eclipsed some type of franchise mark as well in tackles, I think, right?
DTs
Yeah.
never get credit. Like unless you're a Warren Sapp, Aaron Donald type, like the defensive tackles, especially the good ones in the league, they hardly ever get any kind of recognition.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you why we mad, son. I'm gonna tell you why we mad, son.
And Derek Brown is going to be one of these dudes. He already is, really.
Yeah,
one of these
Just
dudes.
think of the foundational pieces on that defense. You got Jaycee Horn, Derek Brown, Brian Burns. I mean, Jeremy Chin, Dante Jackson, CJ Henderson. Like these
Frankie
dudes
Lou.
are going to be around for a while. They're already good, and a lot of them are under 25.
Yeah.
And you mentioned before, they needed that confidence. They needed someone there to tell them, how you mentioned earlier on that, if something happens to the Panthers early in a game, they kind of lower their heads a little bit, almost like, oh, here we go again. This team, this roster, they don't do that.
Yeah, and you don't see it either. One of the things too, the previous years, you turn on a Panther game and you watch that game, and then you watch another game. The difference in the games in the past, I was like, wait a minute, they're moving way faster. They're more confident. There's just a lot. There's just the whole difference. But now, this past game, the past 4 games that I've watched of the Panthers on a Sunday, especially this last game, watching our defense compared to other defenses, it's mind blowing.
They're flying around.
They're flying around. They hitting people. I mean, like it's a game changer, man.
They're
And
getting cocky.
good.
They're getting cocky a little bit because of what they're doing.
I wouldn't even call it cocky. I'm just calling it what it is.
Aggressive. They're getting very aggressive.
They got the goon mentality, which is, hey, we out here, so we might as well hit somebody.
Hey, for real. And now we bring in a familiar face to the Panthers. Cornerback Josh Norman signs the practice squad yesterday afternoon. 35-year-old cornerback had his best season here under Steve Wilkes as defensive coordinator. 2015, made first team All-Pro, helped lead the Panthers to Super Bowl 50. He was a very key component of that team in terms of leadership. Like when I think of that 2015 team, of course, the first thing I think of is Cam Newton. The second thing I think of is Josh Norman in terms of he was like the vocal leader of the defense of that team. And that defense was a problem. Like they were a serious problem. And Norman, I forgot, it's like week 3 or 4 of that 2015 season, y'all were playing the Saints. And Josh got that closing interception on Breeze, right in the end zone. Yeah, and I was watching it. My man is parallel in the air, like to get it, and comes down like on his back. Like you would think it would have knocked the wind out of him, and he hops right back up because he knows what just happened. Like he just ended the game pretty much. Like he was the one that we haven't had a cornerback like Josh Norman that vocal and could back it up since Josh Norman. And Jaycee Horn, to be honest, is probably the closest thing to it trajectory-wise. But we brought in Norman because Jaycee Horn, some roster notes, had surgery on Tuesday. Today. Schuyler, have you heard anything, the latest on Jaycee Horn's injury? It didn't sound like they're trying to put him on IR. It sounded like Wilkes was saying, depending on what happens, they might be able to club it up and he might still be able to play. What have you heard about that from the Panthers?
Yeah, just check my phone again just to make sure. But I haven't seen anything or heard anything yet. I don't think we'll hear anything maybe until like later this evening. Maybe not until tomorrow. We'll definitely hear something tomorrow from Steve, but we might hear something this evening. Again, it's so different because it depends on where exactly the pain in the wrist is and kind of how, I guess, I don't even know how to describe it. I mean, I've broken my wrist before and I've played through it and it sucks. Like it's hard to play with a club, especially, but when you're defensive back, I mean, heck, you don't really need your hand to really catch the ball. You just need to bat the pass down. But when you're hand fighting and stuff, that could be a problem. So it just depends on how severe it is and if it's something that can re-injure itself or maybe worsen the pain. But I don't know. I know Jaycee Horn really wants to be out there, and I know he understands what's on the line. So I would not be shocked if he played Sunday. I really wouldn't. But that's a tough thing to play through.
Yeah. What do you expect from Josh Norman? He got signed to the practice squad basically so they could potentially just move him up. He could potentially be starting on Sunday. We don't know. He's 35. He last played last year with the 49ers. I think he played 14 games. He actually caused a bunch of fumbles last year. I think like 7 or something like that last year. Clearly, we're not getting the 2015 version of Josh Norman, and nobody here is suggesting that we are. However, I would be perfectly fine if we're getting a 2015 Peanut Tillman type of Josh Norman that can come in, be that veteran guy. Because none of these players on this team were on this team when Norman was here, except for Shaq Thompson. So these are all young guys looking up to Norman. And this is something else. I hate to keep going back to Matt Rule, but Steve Wilks understood the fabric of the team. Like, it's one thing to bring in a cornerback off the street to fill in a spot. It's another thing to go find Josh Norman and be like, hey, you're my dude. You understand the scheme. You know what we're doing. You know what the Panthers are about. The Panthers know you. It's just a bigger deal bringing back a familiar face like a Josh Norman that you could possibly just plug in on nickel or whatever, like third down plays, and say Norman gives you a big play somewhere in this game somewhere. He ain't got to play the whole game.
Right.
Whatever, you know.
Keith Taylor will get the start if Jaycee is indeed out. So there's that. But Josh Norman, he's probably going to play, if I had to guess, I don't know, it's probably somewhere between 20 and 30 snaps. I mean, it's not going to be something crazy. He's not going to start. But we may see him start in the final game next week against New Orleans, depending on where he's at in terms of being in game shape. Because, I mean, let's face it, he hasn't played a game all year. That's a tough thing to do, be –
yeah, I think you're going in the right direction here. I think the Carolina Panther fans have to have the right expectations as far as what's going on here.
Yeah.
Keith Taylor is the starter. You're bringing in Josh Norman really as a safety valve, right? But also having the intentionality of certain plays that Wilks knows that he will thrive in different situations as the game goes on. We're going to see Josh Norman in there to make plays. So given those opportunities, depending on how the game flows, we'll see a lot of Josh Norman or we'll see not that much. You know what I'm saying? So I think this is the right move, man. Wilks it's just one of those things where these types of moves can only be receptive under a certain coach, and like the DNA that's being like I don't know, injected right now into this organization is like it's amazing to see, and it's amazing to watch, because that's really the makings of a good organization, is when you are looking at this from a culture standpoint, and you got to have the right guys in there to make the right plays. And when I say the right guys, it's got to be guys that, you know, that understand, you know, what's at stake, got to understand who's on the roster and understand what they bring to the table. And so the humility that's involved in all of this, and the leadership aspect that Josh Norman's going to be able to bring just this week, and for guys to be able to ask him questions about like, hey, what was it like, you know, when you guys went 7-8-1? Because I mean, you have the voice of Shaq Thompson and you have the voice of JJ Jansen, but when you add Josh Norman, the secondary front, which was actually one of the year we went 7-8-1, like I'm like me and Josh, you know, during our time together, like in the hot tub, like him joking around, just seeing him grow as a player, and seeing him on the practice field and seeing him take the things that he was doing so well in practice and it just all of a sudden start to make sense and dial up in the games. I mean, I was like, wow, like whoever's got their hands on Josh Norman, like, need to pay raise. And guess who that person was? Coach Wilks.
Yep. He got a head coaching job right after that too.
When you go and look at the identity of what this team has been, it's really what it was during that championship run in 2015. And like, it's kind of ironic to think that like, okay, well, they fired Ron Rivera, they let go of Cam Newton, they kind of blew up the whole entire thing, they blew up the entire culture. And I don't really want to talk about the past and stuff like that, but I mean, Matt Rule completely changed everything, went in a completely different direction. And as most head coaches probably would when they get a new job, but they went away completely from what they were known to do and have success with. And it's just kind of weird how they go back to that same championship DNA, that pedigree, that culture, and all of a sudden you're seeing the results come back around again.
I mean, look at the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I was about to say, look at and David
the Pittsburgh Steelers have been this exact same
for 50 years.
For 50 years.
Plus year. And what?
No matter who the coach is, they've been the same.
Exactly.
So that's what bothered me, because Tepper came from Pittsburgh. So, and he said he wanted to build us like Pittsburgh. So you would think that he would recognize the culture that was already here and actually add on it, as opposed to just, I'm hoping he learned his lesson. Yeah, he basically just gave the keys to Matt Rule and said, just build this in your own image. It doesn't matter what they were before because they never won anything, blah, blah, blah. So I don't care about that. But now I'm wondering if Tepper's looking at this and going, you know what? They had their own culture here. I didn't need to bring in somebody to wipe the slate clean. A matter of fact, he probably should have kept Ron Rivera, to be honest, and just help Rivera build this team over again, as opposed to wanting your own coach and all the other stuff.
Sometimes these decisions are kind of good without even. I'm trying to think of the term here, but I guess to say, if you don't fire Ron Rivera, you don't hire Matt Rule. If you don't hire Matt Rule, you don't fire Matt Rule to get to Steve Wilkes. And maybe Steve Wilkes is the guy to get you to where you want to be. So it could
Everything happens for a reason, man.
Everything happens for a reason. And shout out to Ron Rivera and the Washington Commanders. They're in the thick of things too. We called it on this show 2 months ago. Ron is going to get hot in December. That's what he does. Like, his teams just start rolling as it gets colder, and the Commanders are in the thick of things. The NFC playoff race. Once you get past like the contenders,
playoffs,
like
don't talk about
the division leaders.
You kidding me?
It's
playoffs.
It's all 500 teams. Green Bay somehow is back in this now. Detroit is now 7-8. We're floating around. Tampa.
Everybody's got around a 500 record right now.
Yeah. And that's what they want. That's literally what the league wants. They want everybody to be right around 500. A couple teams a little bit higher, a couple teams a little bit lower, and then you're gonna have your outliers, the ones that are really good.
TV rating this weekend about to be out of control.
The next 2 weeks, I mean, you got showdowns with us against Tampa. You got Baltimore and Pittsburgh, and then the following week, depending on what happens this week, I'm trying to think of a scenario where the Panthers do get flexed in the prime time. Although someone did make a great comment, it is open mailbag day today, where I'm trying to find the comment now. Where they're glad that we're not going to be playing at night, because typically we lose when we play night games, or when we wear the all black, which is horrible because the all black is like the best uniform in the whole league. But usually we have bad luck when we play at night. Shalika knows sports that I'm glad they didn't flex, as we don't do well in prime time. It was one of those.
Did we wear all black this past weekend?
Did we? We didn't wear all black, did we? I don't remember the scheme. I thought it was black top with silver pants. I can't remember. I know the one time we wore all black this year, we won. But typically the other right. Usually when they wear all black, they typically don't win that game. But they look good.
It was the gray pants.
If they get into the playoffs, and they'll obviously be hosting the playoff game, they should go all black. Helmet to toe. I love all black.
I love that look. That look is fantastic, and it gives you a certain vibe. Yeah, the high school teams that I play, or that I call for down here, when they dress in all black, they feel different. You can tell they got a different vibe to them. Like, they feel like they're coming out like a Marvel super team or something, like just ready to slap people around in all black. This game coming up here.
Yeah, Shalika. Back to Shalika though.
Yeah,
she has a good point. I think right now, coming off this game, it's a bounce back game, a game that we needed to win. Right. Got embarrassed against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now we're going into a game with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Everyone's counting us out. Everyone is not talking about us. Let's keep it that way. Because if you fly under the radar and you end up where you want to be, that's all that matters. And I think the primetime situation, if it was going to happen, sure, that'd be great. But since it's not a bad thing. And so Desmond, I know you upset because you want people to be, pumping up the Panthers and talking about them, and they deserve it.
I'm
But
kind
it's
of
good. It's good to be under the radar.
yeah. I'm
You know what
kind
I'm
of
saying?
there.
Making moves, and just doing your business. Because at the end of the day, if you run in a business that nobody knows about, but you making money and that cash coming in, that's all you care about.
I've kind of gone away from the whole wanting the national media to be like, come accept us, to the point where I'm like, you know what, fine, we'll just win football games, and eventually you're going to come back around, because they always do. That's how they treat us in the national media. They don't come around until it's near the end of whatever it is we're doing,
and you know what we're gonna do. We know what we're gonna do.
Calling people out. We calling out everybody.
Yeah,
I got local media out here.
I seen y'all 11 weeks ago.
Yeah,
every last one. I went through. I got names.
I forgot the dudes here locally that have been like, the Panthers were not make the playoffs. There's no, why am I going to trust a team that ain't won 2 games back to back all year, or ain't won on the road, or blah blah blah. This ain't the same team. This is not the same team that started the year. Like, throw all that out. Like, it don't matter what they were underneath Matt Rule. This is a different.
Wilkes we trust.
And Wilkes we trust.
I don't think that the primetime thing really matters that much, anyways, because I mean, like, all it is a time. Right, your game plan is your game plan. You're going to play against the team that you're going to play against, and it doesn't really matter as long as you commit to your game plan and you execute it. You're going to win. So it doesn't matter if it's 1 or 8 o'clock.
It's open mailbag Tuesday here, because we're not going to have a Thursday show. So this is actually serving as the preview for the Tampa game Sunday at 1 on Fox. It was not flex, so it'll be a Sunday 1 o'clock game in Tampa Bay. Carl Van, who's watching right now, says, "What up, Stu? I bet you $500 I can tackle you on the first try." I would like to see that. We would like to set that up. Maybe sometime in the offseason we could set up a camera or something with BOA and see if we can get Carl out there and
Carl, I need you to go to GoFundMe and raise that $500 to something more.
We'll have $5,000 in there from people donating before the day is over. If Carl really wants to make that happen, maybe we can try to make
no pads.
No pads. Can you tackle him on the? He said first try too. So I don't know what Carl does for a living, but he's very.
I'll give you a month.
He's very.
Make sure you get that seat right. And I say that seat. Make sure you get your squats right, your lunges. You gotta have that seat right before you come with me.
Gosh. Carl also says he thinks Taylor has a bounce back game. To be honest, my guy Kevin Avery over at the 4-Man Rush. They do an excellent job reviewing Panther video tape, that kind of stuff. They have their own podcast. They're doing their thing. He mentioned this, and I didn't really think about it before, but that Steeler game that Keith Taylor got burned on a lot, that's really his only bad game of the year. He's really getting it across social media as if he's been a bad cornerback all year. He had a bad game there, and I think he had a play or two. I think it was the Ravens game or the Bengals, one of them, where everybody got beat in the Bengals game. You can't really point to anybody.
I mean, every corner's going to have a day like that. I mean, especially when you're in the NFL. I mean, these dudes get paid to make plays too. And like Keith Taylor said, like, when you're a corner, like, you're going to have these bad days. It's just trying to eliminate how many of them that you actually have.
Yep.
Willie Smith says, how much talking is going on between Tepper, Fitterer, and Wilkes? Do you think a decision has already been made? I don't think a decision has already been made. If I'm not mistaken, Schuyler, maybe you can correct me on this. They can't take the interim tag off of Steve Wilkes during the season until they interview at least 2 minority candidates in the offseason due to the Rooney Rule. So they still have to interview a couple of guys before they can officially give it to him.
Which I love the Rooney Rule. I really do, because I think it gives minority coaches an opportunity, and it kind of forces organizations to go out and interview minorities. But the one problem I have with the Rooney Rule is in this situation right here, where if you feel like Steve Wilkes is your guy, then why force a team to waste 2 other people's times to just bring him in just to say that they lived up to the Rooney Rule, just to go and hire Wilkes anyway? Like, I don't like that part of it, because again, Steve Wilkes, minority coach, probably is going to get the job anyways, and you're going to bring 2 other guys in here that essentially don't have a chance to get the actual job, except for to say, hey, they interviewed with the Panthers. Like, that's the only problem I have with it.
Carl,
like, this is how I feel about the coaching situation. If Bill Belichick wanted to come coach for the Panthers, I'm choosing Coach Wilkes over Bill Belichick.
Me too, but I hate Bill Belichick, so that's an easy. I can't stand
but,
it.
But just to the situation, like we were talking before, like it's the glove, man. Like
the glove fits.
If the glove fits, he must have quit.
And it's so comfortable too. It feels like a shoe you've had forever, and you lost it, and you found it under the bed. And you're like, oh man, it fits. It's supposed to be on my foot,
like a blanket. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like a blanket, like your blue blankie when you was little.
So I'm so worried David Tepper's going to mess this up, and like I don't really have it.
Man. Desmond,
really
stop.
He's already
Desmond, stop being negative.
No, because I feel like on one hand I'm trying to think like what has he done to make me feel this way. Because everything he's done, we've defended David Tepper pretty much since he got here. So even letting Rule go after 4 weeks of the season, 5 weeks of the season, we felt like that was the right thing to do. People kept saying he was impatient and all this other stuff, but we never really caught that vibe.
I mean, let's put it this way: he could have gave the interim tag to Ben McAdoo. He could have gave it to anybody else, but he gave it to Steve Wilkes.
That's true.
He brought Steve Wilkes in here for a reason.
And it reminds me of that first win that Wilkes got, that locker room video. That Tepper went down there and personally gave him the game ball and was like, "This is for you, brother." Like that was a very emotional scene. It felt like it had been building up with the team. Maybe Tepper is onto something. Maybe Tepper kind of has an idea now that he's a results guy. So like, I mean, you start off 1-4, you go 5-5 the rest of the way. You've gone through 3 quarterbacks. You've had multiple injuries. This isn't even your roster. And
traded your best player.
Traded your best player a week after you got the job. Your starting wide receiver made a scene on the sideline of a nationally broadcasted game.
Terrace Marshall Jr. is playing football and he's balling.
Yeah. I mean, how good was that LSU team? Like, you think of all the wide receivers that came from and Joe Burrow. Like, how good was that team? That offense? Jamar Chase.
NFL players.
Who am I missing? Who's the other one? Justin Jefferson.
Hilaire.
But Hilaire in the backfield with Burrow. Man,
Justin Jefferson needs 200-some yards just to break the single season record.
He
might be able to do it.
Yeah, he might get there.
Might be able to do it in 16.
Yeah. He might do it next week. Like the dude is elevated to top five wide receiver in the league by far, I would think.
Top 3, top 2.
Yeah, he is amazing. And yet people still are kind of like down on Minnesota, even though they're 11-3 or 12-3 now.
It's because of Kirk Cousins, man. I don't trust him.
I think it is. Yeah. But all he does, well, you know what? Their defense, I'm sitting there looking at it now. Minnesota scored 378 points this year. They've allowed 373, and they're 12-3. That is actually an indicator that they can be had. So we'll find out playoff wise what's going to happen with that. But Jose Luis Ibarra Brumley says we should run down their necks against Brady and the Buccaneers. Let's get into this preview real quick, guys, before we get out of here.
No, let's just congratulate. Let's give you some kudos for a second for being able to say that name correctly.
Yeah.
Jose Luis Ibarra Brumley. I think I said it right. I'll find out here in a bit because he'll probably comment if I do not. He'll sound it out for me. Willie Share says, I think back to when the Eagles drafted Rager and the Vikings front office laughed so hard, and I said, get JJ right now. Not sure what that's in relation to. I'm just kind of around. Ooh, Carl says, I'd love to see a Panthers-Niners playoff game. I do not. The Niners are the team I'm trying to avoid. I don't want to see them again. We already saw them, Carl, earlier this year. Remember, that was kind of that was a, hey, look at Christian McCaffrey game, like pretty much. Like, do you want him? Do you want him? We'll give him. Do you want him? The Niners are playing really well. I know they're on their third quarterback too, but they got enough to – they're kind of built where they don't necessarily need a quarterback, like a star quarterback. Their defense is great. They're kind of built like us.
I mean, is there one team in the NFC that really puts the fear in you with it? Like, and I'm not saying this is because of what we've seen lately. Like the whole NFC, I think, is wide open. And if you have a team like Carolina Panthers playing the way they are, right? And remember what I've said weeks ago before this run really started: is if this team can gain confidence, the most dangerous thing in the NFL is a young team that has confidence. I don't think it matters who they play.
Yeah. But a lot of people want to say like it's always the teams from the previous years and stuff. There's always a team that pops up every year that wasn't in the playoffs that surprises everybody. Last year was the Bengals. You know, they surprise everybody. They get in, they make a run. And a lot of times it's a wild card team or a team that's near 500 or something like that.
All
I
you
think
gotta
the
do is
last time the
get
Steelers won, they were 9-7 coming into the playoffs. So
Just get in and something can happen.
get in. Everyone's 0-0 once you get into the playoffs. I'm not gonna entertain this nonsense about, well, whoever wins the NFC South, they don't deserve to go to the playoffs, or a sub 500 team shouldn't be in there, or you're not good, blah, 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 blah. We don't care. We don't care. We have not had meaningful football in December in the Carolinas in 6 years.
Well, I
And
mean,
we're talking about a playoff game Sunday.
For the people saying that, like say the Panthers get in, people will say like, oh, they don't deserve to be in. Well, why would they not? They're probably playing some of the best football of anybody right now, especially if they win these last 2 games, which they will have to do to get in. That means they've won, what, 5 of their last 6 or 7 games to get into the playoffs?
Yeah, it'd be 5 of the last 7. Yeah. And
I mean, come on.
Rushing for 200 a clip, like on all these teams too. Like, nobody's doing that right now. They're leading the league in rushing yards per game since Wilkes took over the team. It's just it's crazy to see it, because people want to naturally go back and go, oh, what if we were doing this with McCaffrey here? We wouldn't have been doing this with McCaffrey here. Like, we would have ran a different offense because of everything Christian McCaffrey can do. It's like that new toy on Christmas Day. You want to play with it. Once he was gone, it forced them to look at some other way to do this. And the run by committee, this 3-headed monster they got going on right now, it's feeling pretty good. Miss Rain says Panthers versus Cowboys playoff game. If it sticks to the way it is right now, the NFC South winner would host probably the Cowboys, who are in the top wild card seed. Although the Eagles have not clinched in the NFC. To answer your question, I don't fear any of the teams in the NFC, even the Eagles. Like, I haven't really trusted the Eagles all year. They feel like those Green Bay teams that would go like 15-1 or 14-2 and like just kill it all regular season, then they'd lose first round in the playoffs for some reason at home at Lambeau, probably to the Niners or somebody. They feel like that. Like, they feel like they're going to lose to Dallas in a divisional round game or something, and they shouldn't. Dallas, maybe Dallas, and even them,
Not worried about Dallas.
they're off and on like so much. Like, maybe if the Rams had Baker Mayfield week 2, maybe I'd pick the Rams, because they're dropping 50 burgers on people right now.
But
that's another game. When I watch that game,
Arizona's
defense.
That's why I'm mad. That is why I'm mad.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you why we mad, son.
I'm mad because the Broncos fired they fired Nathaniel Hackett, which means that we might start seeing the Broncos win games, which also means Jay Stu's not going to have fun on his Why You Mad Thursdays.
I thought about that. As soon as they crossed 50 points, I was like, well, this might be the last we see of Nathaniel Hackett, because I don't know if he's going to make it through this week dropping this football game. And I thought of Stu. I was like, oh, what's he going to do going forward if Hackett ain't there to mess it up?
Man, listen, the Denver Broncos, I don't know what is going on over there, boy, but man, it's like, like, I don't know, man. They need prayer. They really do. They need
Sean Payton. I would assume that's the first phone call they made when they let Hackett go. They had to call Sean Payton, be like, "Hey, man, you want to come and help us out here?" Because
they need Jesus, man. They need Jesus. I don't know if Russell Wilson,
the clipboard, get him out there,
man. Like, it's crazy over there. I've never really seen the turn of events that have just like went a complete 180 in expectations for a football team with, you know, a celebrated player such as Russell Wilson. I'm not really sure what's going on with him. Because I mean, in that game early on, I'm like, man, that was really bad. And then I'm like, dang, that was really good. And I'm just like, whoa, like, let me just turn this TV off because I don't want to watch this game anymore.
It was weird. It was weird watching them try to play football on Sunday. It was just like, Russell Wilson looked horrible. Like, he has not looked good all year. And I don't know if it's Hackett or if it's Denver or if he maybe Pete Carroll.
A little bit of everything.
The Seahawks knew something we didn't know, because you don't give away a franchise quarterback. You don't trade off a franchise quarterback when they ask, if they're still able to play. Look at Aaron Rodgers. Like, he's been doing it for 5 years, like threatening to go someplace else. Green Bay has not let him go because he can still play. Seattle came up off of Russell Wilson pretty quick, and look at the haul they got back for him. Like, they stole Denver's soul with that trade. Like,
yeah,
they're going to affect Denver for the next 3+ years because of this. Because you can't get rid of Russell Wilson. Like, what are you going to do with him? Can't cut him. So, like, 160 plus guaranteed, 160 million plus guaranteed. Back to this Panthers Tampa game on Sunday. Will the Panthers use a similar game plan against Tampa from week 7 when we play them, or will they make some alterations? PJ Walker was the quarterback when we won.
Totally different thing.
Yeah, 21-3, I think it was that we won, something like that. It was pretty dominating win. Think we'll keep doing what we're doing, or you think they'll switch it up a little bit, guys?
You better not switch it up.
Yeah, just keep running down.
Only thing I want to see is maybe you run one of them run plays more to the left.
Yeah. That guy instead of that guy. Like, we're still running this direction. Like, I hope they still do center trays and stuff.
Because check, man. All year, the Carolina Panthers, it says here, they've been averaging 100. The defense has been averaging 125 yards against them on defense, right? Mm-hmm. On the ground. The last 3 games, they've been allowing 82 yards per game. The last game, 45 yards. So they can't run the ball, right? So again, time of possession, we can run the ball, and we proved it the first time we beat them. So let's just stick to the game plan, do it again, because I know darn well that defense looking at film today or tomorrow, like, oh my God, like they looking at themselves like, what are we gonna do? Like, what are we gonna do? Yeah. Like, the only thing that I will suggest for the Panthers in the run game is be prepared for field conditions. It's a grass field. They've been playing on turf majority of the year, so
they've been playing on cement for most of the year.
You know what I'm saying? So get ready to like have some wet areas or whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? So it's all about footing, man. It's really going to be who can run the ball, because they've proven they can run the ball too when they put their minds to it. But again, time of possession, if we don't give them opportunities to march down the field with Tom Brady doing what he does, I mean, and they cover the running backs. Cover the running backs on defense is going to be the name of this game. They got Julio, they got receivers, they got Mike Evans. But when in doubt, Tom Brady likes to dump it off to the running backs. So
yeah, that's because we're kind of getting into our keys to the game here. For me, you were talking about the Panther defense earlier on in this episode, how they're just swarming. Tom Brady's got to be looking at this Panther defense coming into Tampa thinking, I got to get this ball out. Like, no, second, 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds. Like, there ain't going to be no deep drops or anything like that. Like, you just don't have enough time. And the offensive line of Tampa, I feel like Tampa's living off of reputation right now. Like, they're hanging on for dear life, basically, and have been for the past 2 months, well, really the whole year. But the reputation that they were a great run defense from the past 2 years ago or whatever, when they won the Super Bowl, that's not there. Vita Vega's hurt. They don't have
Ndamukong
Suh in the middle. And then you had the linebackers flying around. They're not doing that this year. Like, they don't have the same personnel to do it, but people think they are because they're Tampa. Or the offense for Tampa. They feel like, or the perception is that they can go down and score, do whatever. Tampa feels like they score like 17 points, like every time they go out, and they can't really score a lot because it feels like Tom Brady and Mike Evans have never played football together before. Like, when you watch them this year, it feels like they're just completely not in sync. I don't know what it is. I don't know what caused it, but I'm not saying Tampa can't beat Carolina, because God knows they can. Like, I think we all knew what was going to happen in that game this weekend with Tampa. Once they got to a certain point in the game, we've seen the script for 20 years. We knew what was going to happen, and it went exactly the way we thought it was going to go down. We can't be in a close game with Tom Brady, because if you give him an avenue to be in a close game, he'll figure out a way to get them in contention to win. But if you get them down early like we did this past week to Detroit, and you do it in that manner, by running the ball down their throat, like taking their toy, pretty much taking their ball, I think you can really affect Tampa, because they feel like they're a team on the verge of imploding. Like, they can go either way. I don't trust the coaching staff. I don't trust the personnel. They've been a 500 team all year, pretty much. We've already beaten them once by double digits, in fact, and it wasn't even close. Like, they could not do anything on offense all day, if I remember correctly. So we can do the same thing. I don't think it's daunting to go down to the pirate ship and try to do the same thing all over again. You guys want to give some scores, or?
Let's do it.
All right. So last week Schuyler picked 21-20 Lions. Stu had 24-17 Panthers. I went 30-21 Panthers. Actually kind of almost got close to nailing the score if Detroit hadn't kicked the field goal or whatever it was. And then we scored again, so it was okay. Jamie Revis, I live in Dallas, but transferring through work to Charlotte in the next month or two. I want to play Dallas too, just for that reason. We might get Carolina, Dallas, and Charlotte. First time since '96, I think they would play in a playoff game. Schuyler, we always start off with you. Give us your score for this game.
My gut tells me that the Panthers are going to win this game. But I feel obligated to go against Carolina just because it seems like every time I do, they win. So I don't want to. I want to, be the good fortune guy here and be a little reverse psychology. But I also can't go against my gut, so I'm kind of back and forth on this. Panthers.
Hey,
well played.
Panthers.
Well played.
4-19.
4-19. All right, I'm writing these down so we can keep track. Because we're not one of those shows that'll give you a crazy take or a score and then pretend like we didn't do it the next week. We hold ourselves accountable here. The Believe in Carolina Panthers podcast. Jay Stu, baby, what you got? Bucs, 1:00 Sunday.
Man, I think it's gonna be one of those games where it's gonna be close when it shouldn't be. Just because of the high stakes of the game and just the preparation on both ends of both teams. They're gonna come with their best. And I think Eddie Pinheiro is going to be a huge factor in this game. I think he's got 16, 17 straight field goals. We're going to need him to go 20 straight field goals. So I feel like this is going to be like a 19-13.
That was going to be my original score.
19-13 Carolina Panthers coming out with the victory. And time of possession is going to be huge. And I think we're going to win. I think we're going to dominate in the running game, getting it into the end zone is what I'm kind of up in the air about.
Tampa is 3-11-1 against the spread this season. They're coming in this game 3-point favorites, considering it's home at Tampa and they're only getting 3 points. To me, kind of tells the story of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for this season. Ms. Rain says we need to control the time of possession the way we do at Seattle, keep the ball out of Brady's hands. I'm not really worried about it being in Brady's hands. Actually, I kind of feel like it's weird to say, but it being in his hands over the past couple of weeks of what we've seen from Tampa Bay offensive football, that might be the best move for us to have because he's probably going to fumble it or throw an interception or something's going to happen. And Tampa's going to turn the ball over. They're just turning it over. It feels like every third possession on average, they're just putting it on the ground.
The game really in this one for Carolina is just to, again, eliminate the run game because Tampa Bay does find success on the ground. That's when it's going to be problematic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't trust a lot of people apparently, but I don't trust Leonard Fournette or that offensive line from Tampa to really get off against this Carolina defense is playing so well. I think Josh Norman adding to the secondary will give the defense not necessarily a bump in terms of talent, but in confidence. I think it will. I think he'll be able to get these boys to a point where they smell it like blood and water. Like, let's go get this. It's right in front of us, and we can do this by beating the GOAT at home. Like we can. Do they clinch if they beat Tampa on no, they still got to win the next week, or Tampa has to lose next week. But they would take the lead in the NFC South if they beat Tampa on Sunday. I kind of felt that last week. I thought I went too high on the score. Ended up being like right near it, and I'm kind of feeling the same way. I feel like this Tampa team. I feel like they're on the verge of if things start going wrong early, that they might turn on each other, and that includes Tom Brady. We've seen him yelling at his teams numerous times this year. I think that could happen this go round. I think the Panther defense is playing really, really well. They're fairly healthy up front. We are going to miss the secondary is banged up, and maybe Tampa takes advantage of that. Of course, Dante Jackson's on IR. I think CJ Henderson's going to play. Of course, we had to bring in Norman. Jaycee Horn, we don't know exactly what his status will be. I would assume he's not going to play this week, I would think. But stranger things have happened. Brady might be able to take advantage of that if he's upright. One of the best things I've ever heard from a coach was that, it don't really matter what they do on offense in the air if the quarterback's sitting on his ass all day. Like, it just don't matter. It don't matter how many receivers you got if he's only getting 2 seconds to throw the football. So I think Carolina will dial up a bunch of blitzes and really hamper Tom all night, or all day, I should say. I think Carolina is getting to a point where they can score 25 plus points running the ball. So I'm going to say 28 to 10 Panthers. And it's going to be another one of those games where, like I've said the past couple of weeks, it's not going to feel close. The Panthers are they're one of these teams that are rolling right now. And I've seen a lot of teams packing it up and thinking about the off season. Like, body language to me says a lot with these defenses. Maybe it's because it was cold all over last week, and that might have had something to do with it. But these dudes just wasn't trying to touch anybody. They weren't trying to hit anybody, really, a lot of these games. And it was always the team that was 4-10 or the one they know they ain't going to the playoffs. They're just trying to get through the rest of the year. Tampa's not there, but they got players on that team I think they could get persuaded to get there by the end of the football game on Sunday. And I think we'll be able to do it. I'm going to go 28-10 Panthers. I always get nervous when I write this down, too, because that's a lot. That's a lot of points. I don't even know what else to say. Like, we've kind of covered everything. Brad Tippett actually makes a good comment here. 4 of Tampa Bay's wins on the year are 1 score or less. So they're used to being in tight games. I don't think we'll have a tight one with them. I really don't. Willie says Panthers beat the Bucs so bad that Tom retires at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, again. I don't. You think Tom retires this year for good? No, nobody does. The man's 45. Like,
he's divorced now. You don't have to worry about it.
Right.
There's a lot of landing spots where he can end up.
I saw Patriots.
The way the NFL is going right now. Yeah, the Patriots.
I've been seeing Patriots reunion.
San Francisco.
He's from that area. He grew up there.
If I was him, I'm going to Cali.
Yeah, for real. And then San Francisco, get a ring out there with
man, yeah.
Oh my gosh, no,
George Kittle. George Kittle.
About that. No,
you don't have Gronk anymore, but you got George Kittle.
Nah, man, that ain't fair. Tom Brady needs to retire. I feel
like Tom Brady go down there to the Niners. But hey, man, I'm taking league minimum. Just whatever. Just
I'll play for free.
Keep the money. Just make sure you get some players, and we good.
Oh my god, San Francisco, man, I'd almost think somebody like Aaron Rodgers would try to get that way. Isn't he from there too? Like from California? So I don't know. But meanwhile, all of us we did. All 3 of us picked the Panthers. Schuyler picked 24-19. Stu's got I got 19-13. Is that right? Yeah, 19-13. And I'm only one that said the Panthers are gonna go big, 28-10 Panthers. So we'll see how this plays out. We are out of time. Let's get out of here. You've been listening and watching the Believe in Carolina Panthers podcast, brought to you by Bet Online. I just now remembered an hour and 9 minutes into this that I did not read the Bet Online read at the beginning of the show. It's okay. We'll read it twice next week or something and make it up. So it's betonline.ag. Believe is the code. Get the 50% off. BLEAV. Yada yada yada. You got all that. So we'll take care of that next week.
All we cared about was these Panthers today.
Yeah, we were ready to just dive in. Like I got the read right here and everything, and I just went right past it. But it's okay. For Schuyler Callihan, go check him out on Twitter, Callihan_ for the latest news and notes with the Panthers throughout the week. Keep an eye out with him, especially this week, so we find out the latest on Jaycee Horn. The coaches will talk. There'll be some press interviews and things of that sort this week, so definitely follow him. For Jonathan Stewart, the all-time leading rusher in Panthers history, who had one of your records taken away from you this week, but I don't think you were that mad about it being in the house.
Not at all. It was a treat, man, to watch those guys run all over the place. The way they did offensive line, the way they came back off that Pittsburgh loss. Let's just continue to stack it.
Yep.
Stack it. You had
Stack
320 yards this week. Let's get 325 next week.
You know what would be crazy if they actually did that? If they
They
actually ran
could.
another
They
30 yards,
could.
I think they might be able to do it. Tampa is not this juggernaut squad.
James Conner was running all over them boys, man.
Yeah, so we're gonna see. It's gonna match. It's another one of these games where if you look at on paper, it matches up well for what the Panthers do well versus what the other team does not do well. And they've been following that formula. It sounds simple, but that's all it needs to be. It just needs to be simple. So for Schuyler, for Jonathan Stewart, I'm Desmond Johnson. You've been watching and listening to the Believe in Carolina Panthers podcast. We'll be back with a new episode after the weekend, after the holidays are all over, next Monday, and we'll be back on our regular rotation. So you got the week to digest this episode, so it's a little bit supersized. We will talk to you then. Panthers, Bucs, 1 p.m. Sunday, Fox, NFC South lead on the line with 2 games to go. Keep pounding.